Ready when you are.
Mike, what does it do for program status, reputation, all those things, to make the Big 12 title game second time in 3 years, in an era when nobody's doing that? I mean, there's a lot of parity. I mean, Texas hadn't made it in 5 years, 6, whatever.
Right.
You've done it twice in 3 years. Nobody else has done that. What does that do for you?
I think it's good for well-being of the program, that your donors, people that want to be involved with success, administration. I'm sure Board of Regents like it, enrollment likes it, university likes it. Recruiting-wise, it's interesting. We talked about it a little bit. Most of recruiting is complete. Now, can it help solidify those guys? I would say yes, more so than no. Not as much of an impact as it would have been in years past where you were still finishing the last 6 or 8, 10 spots recruiting. So I'm going to guess there's a marketing value financially that we're going to gain as a university through making a championship game. So there are a number of reasons. It's a plus for us.
What have you seen so far to Texas's run defense? Seems like it's pretty good outwardly, but as you've watched a little bit of them, what do you say?
Yeah, so they're 2.9 a carry, which is tough for the guys rushing football against them. It's interesting. They're a 35-point team scoring, and they're only giving up 17. They're double. Their margin's pretty big. It's pretty rare you see that. They're 25% third down conversion defensively, which is really good. I mean, there's a reason where they are. In particulars, that's what you're dealing with. More of a traditional defense. They can play gaps and play coverage. They don't necessarily have to overload the box to stop the run. That's not what they do. They could, but that's not traditionally what they do. Most people have struggled in a big way blocking their down guys and their backers, so they don't have to overload the box for the rush.
How does that challenge your guys? Because, obviously you want to give it to Ollie a decent amount. How does their not needing to load up the box challenge you?
I think at this point, I would guess their coaches know we're going to do what we do, and I'm going to say that for the most part they're going to do what they do. We're in week 13, and there's not a lot of changes that are going to take place over a 2-day preparation. It won't be for us. I don't think there's any secret to it. We have to find ways to block them and balance our offense. We would like to not be one-dimensional. One-dimensional has not been good for our team, no matter who we play, much less a team that's as talented as Texas.
One question to look back on Saturday. When you watch the tape of your defense, do you think there was a potential turning point for Brian and the defense, the way they played the second half? And in particular, because I saw him at halftime with Kendall and the Rovers, he spent about half his time with the defense and half with just them. And it seemed like Kendall maybe had his best half in a while.
I think they've grown throughout the year. I would say now that they're better than they were early in the year. We had a lot of dropped coverages and mistakes and things that I didn't feel like that we would have, but we did. We've worked through them. There's different things that we have to process in this defense and in with more of an even front. And the thing that I like about where we're at is they've done a good job of making adjustments and playing better in most cases in the second half, which tells me that we do have answers for the other team if they expose us. It's not been 100%, but the percentage has been pretty good in our favor. So as they learn to play together as a group and the other coaches learn the system and get a little bit better each week.
With Brian, from the outside, it doesn't seem like there's been any overwhelmed moments, things like that you might expect with a guy making the jump that he has made. Have you seen him kind of be the person you need him to be?
He's been good during the week. He's been good in practice. When I'm critical of him in meetings, he's handled that well. On game day, he's been excellent. He's learning and growing. It's different for him. I hate to speak for him, but I'm fairly certain it's different for him now than it was earlier in his career and even last year. and he's learning to grow through it, but he has a good demeanor and has a good temperament. Like, people don't really change, right? So coaches are kind of who they are. You might mold them one way or the other, but they're not going to change their personality and who they are on game day. And so he has a very calm demeanor, and that has helped him, in my opinion, as he's made the adjustments. And I would guess that he will continue to improve over the next couple of years.
When you say, when you're critical of him in meetings, what does that even look like? What, for any head coach in a meeting, what are the criticisms you could even have of a coach in a meeting?
Well, I can only speak for myself. I don't know what goes on in other meetings with other head coaches, but on Sundays, I meet with the staff, I meet with the special teams for an hour, I meet with the defense for 3 hours, and I meet with the offense for 2-ish. That being because offensively, I get it more, so I understand what's happening. Defensively, I have to have it explained to me at times, so it takes longer. But if I see things that I feel responsible for as a head coach, not being a defensive guy, then I want answers of why this is happening. Is it a scheme? Is it not being coached well? Is it repetitive? Are we doing the same things over and over? Are we not cleaning up our mistakes? Are we not improving? And so when you're in a group of 8 or 10 people at times, it can be a little critical. Doesn't intend to be that way, but the people in that room aren't dumb. They get it. So there's times I have to say, this sucked. This scheme I don't understand this. This made no sense to me. Why did we do this? Somebody needs to explain this to me. There's 9 guys in here. Everybody thought this was good. This is not good. We have to have answers for the players. We have to give them answers and tell them why. Now, they might have missed a tackle, they might have lined up wrong, they might have got in the wrong gap, they might have dropped a coverage, but we have to give them a reason why if things aren't going the way they should be, based on the talent levels. So that would be an example of being critical, but that's my job.
What were some of your takeaways from watching the Bowman's game on Saturday?
Take away from what?
Just takeaways from his overall performance on Saturday.
He could have played better, made some throws. There's some throws that he makes that I wish that we had back. The conditions that we were in with the weather and the wetness of the ball, and then being behind by multiple scores, are difficult for a quarterback. So that worked against him a little bit. But in the end, he started to play pretty well and distribute the ball over the last 8 minutes of the game, which helped us find a way to win.
Jaden Dixon made a big play on that 4th down. Just kind of what did you think of that play when he caught the ball and then obviously in finishing?
A play we had in for that situation for him. He's a good receiver. He's a good runner, and he's smart. He understands. And when he got near, that must be Sarkeesian. When he got near the first down marker, you saw he knew exactly what to do. Where he dropped his pads and ran through it and knew that he just needed to get that 1.5 yards. It was a really good football play, a big play and a really good football play. The number 5 for BYU played it perfect. He came off, he saw it, he read it, reacted, he played it perfect. We've run that play a number of times and not had a defender play it as well as that young man played it. He just, the law of averages are against him. Jaden's running full speed at him. But it was a good play. It was starting to play we needed.
Mike, going back to Bowman, his career arc has been rather unconventional, the different stops, the injuries he's been through. As you've sort of gotten to know him more over the past year, what sort of stood out about his leadership and maturity as he's, led you guys to this point?
Well, he's been really good. He's bought into our culture. He's accepted Oklahoma State family. The jerseys and things that he wears are his decision. I don't think anybody's told him to do that. So he's older, he gets it. He's been around a lot of different coaches, been around successful people. So some of that is, he's smart enough to let that wear off on him and then be able to implement it in a new system and a new environment which he came into.
Are you worried at all, Mike, or is he mature enough going back home, playing a big game close to his hometown, that he's going to be able to keep all that aside and be able to perform?
I don't think it'll be an issue with him. We have a number of guys that fall in that category. Ollie falls in that category. He fell baseball and hit his stadium from there. So we have a number of guys from there. I think that'll benefit us. I would hope that it wouldn't make the stage too big for them. I don't really see that happening with our team. I think they'll be fine. And with him being as old and as mature as he is, he should be able to go out and function like we want him to.
Mike, you've had a lot of success against Texas. Can anything from the past or the way you guys have handled business against that program give the team confidence going into this weekend, or is that just talk for us looking back at all you've done?
You know, it's hard to determine what goes on in so many of their minds, I would rather go into this game with some success over the history than go into this game and have been 0 for 16 against them. Unless you just want to play the odds and think eventually you were going to win. So, I'm going to tell them it's about the process. It's been that way every week. If they get distracted much on anything at all in outside circumstances and lessen their chance to prepare, to be an issue more than what we've done over the past. So these are new teams, and particularly with the portal now, next year's team won't really be this year's team because there'll be so many changes, I'm guessing. And this year's team doesn't tie in a lot to the teams that we've had 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 10 years ago. So I want them to prepare. I cannot answer that question for them, but I would think would help to give them some confidence.
I think there's 5 guys who started that 2021 game back starting this one. 3 of them are on the offensive line with Birmingham, Mikulski, and Preston Wilson. With the way that game in 2021 ended, like 1 yard away, and the way UT stops the run, is this going to be kind of maybe an opportunity for redemption, full circle moment for those 3 guys up front?
Are you talking about the championship game?
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, it's hard for me to think about what really they think about. I don't bring that up. Those are not things I bring up because it's a new system, it's all different. So I don't really think about it much. You could ask them, but I don't know that that's going to help them. I think that their preparation this week will give them a much better chance to play better on Saturday.
Mike, past 2 weeks, you guys have come back from 14-point or bigger deficits. 2 months ago, would you have thought that's possible?
2 months ago? I don't know. I wouldn't have thought it was possible week 3, 4, or 5 of the season. I don't know that to come from behind. We were having a problem just scoring points to get ahead, much less come from behind at that time. So, but our confidence has grown over the last 5 weeks, I'd say.
Is that the biggest difference is the confidence, or is there anything else that's kind of factoring into you guys being able to come back?
Well, confidence plays a role in a lot of things that we do, but we're also a better offense because we can rush the football and we're balanced, and that allows us to throw the ball. We're not one-dimensional. It's really that simple. Once we were able to rush the football somewhat and throw it when we want to throw it, not them deciding when we had to throw it, makes us a much better offense.
You brought up the portal, and the perception coming into this season was Oklahoma State had been a portal loser, that you lost a whole lot, maybe not gained as much back. The season kind of says another message, but how'd that happen? I mean, what goes into being good in portal transactions for groups that haven't done it before?
Well, Todd and his staff do a great job recruiting, evaluating. They found guys that, most of the guys that have helped us in the portal came from a lower level. And they did a good job of evaluating that the competition they had at that level and their skills, that they could move up to this level and develop into competing for us successfully at the highest level. I think that's really difficult to do. They did a good job. They get a lot of credit for that, and then the staff has to okay that. So our recruiting staff now is essentially like the NFL. For us, I don't know what it is for other schools, but they're going through and finding players that enter into the portal, and they have to give them a yes or a no, and then they go to the position coaches, and then they'll finalize them to me, which means I'm in 90% of the time gonna give them a yes. And so they did a good job identifying those players. We still lost some good players, guys that could have really helped our team this year. But we benefited from some young men that really, really wanted to be at Oklahoma State and really, really wanted to play at this level and are having a blast. And that has helped the chemistry of this team. Ironically, it might have helped us more than if those guys wouldn't have left.
Do you think it's going to help you going forward in the portal, knowing that guys want to play for Oklahoma State?
Should 100%.
Mike, is that?
You know, so we can bring in, when we bring portal recruits in, we can put them with these guys. We've got 6, 8, or 10 guys that we could put them with. Ask these guys questions. What do you think about Oklahoma State? Did we do what we said we were going to do? Did we give you a lot of reps in the spring? Did we give you reps in August? Did we play you in the first game? Did we give everybody a chance, or did we just bring you in here and dish some guys and not? We followed everything we said we would do. And for that reason, I think that we'll have a tremendous run on the portal if we need portal players, the ones that we go after.
Mike, is that a philosophy that you think the program can adopt, to look at some kids at lower schools because of the success? Is that a foundational philosophy for you guys?
We've been good at it for this year. The issue when you go after the quarterback that's at USC, the guy that was at OU, if you go after him, you might as well just get in a boat with a whole bunch of people. It'd be a dogfight all the way down. It was a little easier for us to identify guys that maybe we didn't have to go head to head with a bunch of other schools at our level, and we could really go after them, secure numbers, get them, and move on down the road. We weren't able to get head to head for many of the other guys that were really like highly rated. And then you have number issues. That's the reason the portal's difficult, because you have midterm scholarship numbers you have to meet by the NCAA, and that has to balance your current roster, your returning roster, your potentially returning 6th or 7th year guys, and incoming portal guys. That's where it's extremely difficult. So you have to be careful about trying to keep your cards hidden for too long and wait for guys that have multiple offers, and then other guys are gone, and you go back and this guy leaves, and now you don't have anybody. So that's why we ended up going that route. Plus, we liked the guys that we saw. We liked them. We thought they were good enough.
Is there an element, Mike, Saturday to you carrying a pretty heavy banner for the Big 12? I think Marshall asked you about this after the game Saturday night. I want to circle back.
No. Texas and OU are going to the SEC, and we'll be in the Big 12 next year no matter what.
There's no element of Big 12 versus SEC to this at all?
No.
Is that because you don't want to go there, or you really don't believe there is?
I just don't think the people that matter the most are the players we recruit, and they recruit, and I don't think they care. I think they go to the schools for whatever reason, and the SEC versus the Big 12 or Big 10 or Pac-12, I don't think they care. I just don't think it's a factor anymore.
How about this, football-wise? Does Texas, you've been asked already a couple times about their run defense. Those two big guys in the middle, like Murphy and Sweat. They look almost like they should be playing for Alabama or Georgia, as active and big as they are. Are you playing against an SEC-type defense?
When you talk about that, it's fair to make that assessment, because the majority of the teams that play in that league will have more girth and mass up front in their front six. And Texas has always had that. I mean, we've played them for years. They've got ends that are 30 pounds heavier than most people's ends, and they got inside guys that are 20 pounds heavier than most people's inside guys.
Mike, when you think about your defense, Nick Martin was a guy that was kind of on the periphery when the season started. Justin gets hurt. Now he's such a big part of your defense. How has that changed what you guys have been able to do defensively, what those 10 other guys on the field are able to do?
Well, Nick and Xavier both have had unbelievable years for us. I think Nick's at like 120-something tackles. It's crazy. I mean, we talked about Malcolm Rodriguez, and nobody ever been able to do anything like it again. He's got Malcolm Rodriguez numbers. those two guys have given us a lot of flexibility and have played amazing. Particularly Nick, like you said, he was just a guy. And then he's thrust into that role and just took off. We felt like that he was going to be that kind of player. Not fair to say, well, I didn't think he could do it this year. I didn't think he was ready, but obviously he was. And then I don't know if anybody would have said he's going to be a 120 plus tackle guy, but he's played. He's been an unbelievable surprise for us. And then Xavier's played awesome on the other side. And then knock on wood, we've kept him healthy.
When you think about how Nick has been able to be that dynamic, why so fast has he been able to be that good?
Well, somebody asked that last week, but in my opinion, he's an old school player. He's an East Texas guy he likes to play football, doesn't care about all the notoriety, and he's tough and he's reckless with his body. And that's a rare combination in today's players. You don't see that much. He doesn't worry about protecting his body, and he's humble, and he loves to play football. He's going to play no matter what.
The fact that he and Xavier have been as good as they've been, how does that change, especially what Colin has been able to do? It seems like he's maybe moved around more than...
Well, you're right. Their stability has allowed flexibility for him.
Yeah.
And we don't have the flexibility with him if those guys haven't been as reliable. That's allowed us to do some things with 30. You're exactly right.
What's been the biggest improvement in Xavier? You talked about him throughout the season, but it seems like he's getting better and better as each week. And for last year, he struggled at times.
He's really locked in, and I think this culture has changed his life and his ability to play this game, just from a focus standpoint. And he's just continued to get better and better because he has the same characteristics as Nick. It's crazy. He is reckless with his body, doesn't care about his body, and he's tough and he loves to play football. Like, watch him in games, like the fourth quarter, he'll run and make a play and jump up and he runs back, and you should be tired. He should be tired, right? But he loves to play football. He never gets tired. And with him understanding and adapting into our culture, it's changed him as a player, big time.
You've talked in the past, and not many of your guys had Texas offers coming out of high school. They came after Ollie pretty late in his recruitment. They've done that with
Like 12 hours before signing day.
Yeah, they got one of your guys.
As soon as somebody else told them no.
So, what kind of goes on in the coaching staff when something like that happens? Whenever a blue blood program is coming after one of your guys at the ninth hour, what's that like for you guys? And why do you think you're able to keep Ollie?
Well, nothing. They're going to pick the phone up and call and offer him, and if he's going to go Texas, he's going to go Texas. So, like, they might text me and say, hey, Ollie Gordon got an offer from Texas, and then I'll text him back, that's great. There's nothing I can do. Like, I'm not going to get on the phone and talk him out of it. If he's going to go, he's going to go, for the most part. So, is it a little uncomfortable? Sure it is, but the one thing in recruiting now that's different is the availability of phones and FaceTime and all the ways that young men can communicate with coaches all the time. You can't keep them away from anything. It's like way before you were born in recruiting, coaches would go get a player and they would take him somewhere and put him in a hotel for 2 days and not let other coaches talk to him before signing day. And then they would sign him in the hotel room and then it was over. Well, those days are history now, so there's communication 24/7. So it is what it is, and if they go, they go.
There's a video in post game of after the alma mater, Brennan Presley jumps in your arms, basically a little moment, you smile, you hug. What has he meant to this program over these 4 or 5 years? You're talking about players that are leaving, players that want to be at Oklahoma State, and an in-state kid. What has Brennan Presley meant for this program?
Well, just that. That's his personality. He's at 78 catches now or something, and probably close to 700-800 yards. We do a lot of things with him. Casey and the offense have done a great job this year of moving him around and making sure that he touches the ball. We wanted 100 touches for him. I don't know how many carries he's got. He probably doesn't have 8 or 10 carries. So he might be close to that, 85-ish or something. And every time he touches the ball, something can happen. and there's just not a lot of players that have that ability to be in a return game, catching it, handing it to him. In most cases, he makes you look good, and his leadership has been through the roof. We've been so lucky this year that I haven't really had to do anything from a leadership standpoint with this team. They've done it for themselves, and he's been a huge factor in that.
What'd you think of his tackle? What'd you think of his tackle?
Oh, yeah, I mean, he played both ways at Bixby.
Yeah.
They never took him off the field, and so he's played a lot of defense, and I mean, he's just gonna make those plays. That's just who he is.
That guy was just so much bigger.
Yeah, he just, done it all his life, so.
Well, a lot of the guys that have stepped up in leadership roles, we talked about Rashad on Saturday, giving the halftime speech. A lot of these guys that have stepped into those leadership roles, those guys that you would have thought back in August or July that they would be in those roles of giving speeches, giving.
Rashad, over the last 12 months, has worked hard and really bought in, but he wasn't playing a whole lot. Like I think he started the year as a 3. And so it's hard to really say that we saw that happening or we would have already put it in that situation. We've been very fortunate this year that we've had a number of guys. She brought up Nick, Leon Johnson, Rashad, offensive line that have jumped in and helped us, Josiah. There's other guys, Goodlow. There'll be other guys I forgot, but have stepped up and played a bigger role than what we anticipated. And then we had great leadership, and that's why they're in this game Saturday.
I know you'd rather be in this game than not, but does it complicate recruiting with signing day being so close?
Mm-hmm. This is better, just like the question Barry answered, and I said, most of recruiting's over, but I still think it's better than not being in the game. And we had this discussion this morning, so we have to start making plans on where to go next week, right now. Like when the game's over, everybody's gonna scatter in recruiting. So if we're out a couple days later based on being in this game and we lose a recruit over it, then I don't really want him here anyway. Because to me, that's not what we're looking for in this culture. That doesn't fit what we're. It doesn't mean he's a bad kid, doesn't mean he's not a good player. That's not what we're looking for in our culture.
Hey, pardon me if this is too obvious of a question, but how do you block those two guys up front Darren alluded to?
We can double team them some. And let the widest guy go and double team them. And let that guy try to run and make a tackle. And we can do what we've done the last 15 years, which is block them. So you got to block a 3 technique, not necessarily a 3 technique that has that uniform on. Go block them.
Have you faced anything like it this year?
Like
those guys? Like this front?
We've played them 10, 12, how many years have we played them a bunch of times. They're this way all the time. They've been this way for a long time. I don't know, when I first started playing them as a head coach 20 years ago, is Mac Brown the coach? Mm-hmm. Mac Brown was the coach there. They were top 5 in the country pretty much every year for a while. They got good players. I got a lot of respect for them. Sarton does a good job. They're well coached. You didn't even bring up their punt return. They're plus 300 yards in punt return. Plus 300. Number 1. So that's like an amazing stat. It is what it is. Got to get down there and cover. Got to tackle them, get them on the back.
I don't know if this guy said this to you, but Justin Wright, the injured linebacker, was in the locker room celebrating. And he came up to me and he said, I'm okay with this. In fact, I'm happy. If me being hurt was part of this story to get to where this team is, I'm okay with it. I've never had a kid say, I'm okay with being hurt if that's part of it.
He's been really good for us, and I'm very thankful that he gets another year. He's been great, and it's difficult when you're his age and you're mature and you get hurt. That's a setback. You got to really bow up. You got to really look for the best side of life in his situation. He's been great. He was the first one that met me when I got in the tunnel after the game. He had his hunting stuff on and he was hugging us, and So it's awesome for those guys, you know, and then it's good that they get a chance to play again next year.
Mike, you
Official? Did he get taken back, or is that?
I think he'll be back next year. I mean, I don't know anything's official until they start the process of, I think that starts after the semester, but he missed pretty much the entire year, so I would say that he'll get a chance to come back.
You talked about Trey Rucker after the game a little bit, his sort of big picture evolution, but just this year, the fact that he's a guy that's out there as much as he is with your young, inexperienced secondary, what impact, sort of in the same way I asked about Nick, what impact has Trey had more broadly on just that defensive unit this year?
Yeah, so he's been another guy that's been a special fit for us. He came in and he walked on. He came in and we didn't really know what we had, and he was kind of a knucklehead. So he had to go through a transition to get to the point of where he is now. He's really focused and zoomed in now. He wasn't at all. So he was kind of a guy that floated, so he couldn't help us as much. And then, we kind of had to try to rein him in. He's a knucklehead. He'll get into something, as you know. But he's a good kid. He's a good, not a kid, he's a grown man. He's a good young man. He's got a good heart. And he has been like a real quiet leader. Like, he's a tough guy on the field. He likes to play violent. And he's, we talked about it a little bit, laughed about it Sunday. Him stripping that ball and ending the game was fitting based on the transition he's made to get to where he is. And he gives, to answer your question, he gives 3 and 8 and 11 and 7 some confidence through communication in the game, because you can't rattle him. Like when, there's times during the season he got beat for touchdowns and stuff, and he comes off the sideline and he knows what happened. He knows what he should have done for that not to happen. He knows how to correct it, and he never changes his demeanor, and he goes back out and plays again. So he's matured.
Did you think he would get to the point where, it sounds like maybe you thought spot duty for a while with him.
No, that's right.
Was there a point where you felt like he turned a corner and you said, okay, he can play 60 snaps or whatever?
So we thought he would be a 40-play-a-game guy starting the year, and then he really made a transition and doing things, and he's been pretty focused on things that matter, and so we added that. Guys that play a lot are the guys that we trust, certainly, at every position. And so as he gained trust and was a productive player, he was the player of the game for us against BYU on defense. Then they played more.
Let's talk about Texas defense offensively. What kind of challenges they present? What have you kind of seen from Texas offense?
Well, they're 35 a game, and they don't play fast, so if they played fast, they'd be 50-ish a game, in my opinion, over the more numbers and snaps they would get. He wants to run the football. He's always going to run the football. He's going to max protect. He's going to throw the ball down the field 8 to 10 times a game. Going to max protect and run those guys down the field, try to throw the ball over your head and get big plays. He's going to run his own plays. He's going to run his counter, and he's going to stay in his box. That's what he does. He's going to use his tight ends. He's going to move them. He's going to block down. He's going to drag them across the field. That's what he does, and he pretty much stays in his box.
What have you seen from Ewers? Because he struggled here last year. He turned it over a lot. Is it just normal young guy getting older?
Yeah, he's playing better with reps. He's like most guys you watch as they progress in this conference, and they get, you watch them early in their career, and you're like, and 2 years later, you're like, that's pretty good, and he's kind of progressed in the same manner.
3 of your guys, Presley, Gordon, and Leon Johnson, they kind of went out to like the tent deal where all the students were camping out. I don't know if you saw that, but did you see that scene? I counted like 140 tents out there where students were camping out for tickets.
I was unaware of, I'm not sure, what are you talking about, before the game?
No, last night there were like 140 tents of students camping out for tickets for the championship game. I'm just wondering what type of
student tickets were not sale.
I was wondering what type of fan support you were seeing. What type of fan support you were expecting?
Well, they went out there. What were they doing? They were just hanging out.
President was driving the Gator, and Ollie had the boombox, taking pictures and stuff.
Great. Well, then that's what they were doing. I was unaware of all that. I was in there. Where was this at?
All around Gallagher around the stadium. There's the
Oh,
line.
that's perfect for Ollie, the boombox.
Thanks, Coach.
Would you rather have Presley driving than Ollie?
Was Ollie driving?
I think it was Presley driving.
Then I'm better off. Let Ollie ride with the boombox.